let's talk about polyamory. So first of all, what is polyamory? Polyamory is a relationship structure that is not exclusively with just one other person. So it can take a whole bunch of different kinds of forms. So let's see here. Sometimes folks are in a committed primary relationship with just one other person, and either one or both of them then has either dates or sexual relationships with somebody else. Those other relationships could either be temporary, more casual things, or they could also be long-lasting, committed relationships. Other times, folks in a polyamorous relationship might all be in a relationship with one another. So it might be 3 or more people together, all in a relationship with everybody else. What's crucial here is that polyamory requires that everybody know what's going on. So let's all say it together. Polyamory is not cheating. Polyamory is not cheating. Polyamory is not cheating. Similarly, cheating is not polyamory. In order for it to be a polyamorous relationship, everybody needs to know what's happening. Everybody needs to be aware of others who might be involved in this relationship, and everyone, crucially, needs to have consented to this relationship dynamic. Polyamory absolutely requires communication. It requires a lot of communication. And it requires ongoing communication. We see a lot of not great representations of polyamory in the media and on television. They're often portrayed as particularly, I don't know, sex-focused kinds of relationships. That is a very bad depiction of polyamory. Polyamory is crucially a kind of relationship structure that simply separates out these different layers of life and relationships that are often all loaded onto just one person. So it might be the case that somebody has a sexual relationship with, one person, but they have maybe romantic relationships with somebody else. It might be the case that they have sexual and romantic relationships with maybe 2 other people in one part of their life, but they have these deep and meaningful friendships, perhaps even queer platonic relationships in other dimensions of their life. Polyamory allows for separating out these different components of one's relationships and one's life. It doesn't necessarily involve sex, although it can. What's crucial here is that, again, it is separating out things like romance, sex, all the mundane details of living together, right? Like who's going to do the dishes. It can also be separating out things like childcare or child rearing. Or it might be separating out things, like other important dimensions of one's life. If there's a particular activity that's really important to someone, they might do this with one partner, but not with others. Polyamory allows for recognizing and valuing the ways in which we can have a multiplicity of important sorts of relationships and interactions with others in one's life. At the same time, it in fact serves as a way to de-center sexual relationships. While there's this stereotype that polyamory is all about sex, in fact, one of the things that polyamory does is it gives greater recognition to other kinds of relationships. It doesn't assume that sex, and especially monogamy, are necessarily the most important components of any relationship. It allows for this possibility of assuming that sex might be delightful and great, but not something that makes or breaks a relationship. So that having sex with somebody else is not a giant deal. In the same way that, let's see here, fly fishing with your partner might be delightful and wonderful, but fly fishing with somebody else might also be delightful and wonderful, and is not necessarily a sign of a relationship being not serious or broken or in trouble. It can just be that sometimes it's nice to do things with other people. Or sometimes there might be particular kinds of fulfillment that one gets with one person and other kinds of fulfillment that one can get with others, right? So it serves as a way to deprioritize sex. It can still recognize sex as very important, but it doesn't assume that all of the value of a relationship is built up out of those sexual interactions, and especially that kind of sexual exclusivity. All right, so polyamory fundamentally pushes back against these norms of amatonormativity, these norms that assume that there's only one way to build a flourishing life, and that in building that flourishing life, it necessarily must involve this one relationship with one person that involves sex, romance, daily life stuff, financial decisions together, and in fact, also raising children. Right? Polyamory allows for building up a variety of other people, or perhaps even a community of others with which one can have those different kinds of relationships. Once again, polyamory works for some people, just as monogamy works for some people. Neither one of these work for everyone. So I always want to be very clear about this. Sometimes people encounter ideas such as polyamory and then feel some kind of like pressure of like, oh shit, maybe that's what I need to do, or maybe that's what I'm supposed to do in order to be cool or progressive or something like that. Instead, the point is to recognize and allow for a variety of different relationship structures so that people have the space to find what works for them. Different things work for different people. It's important that we allow that kind of both imaginative and socially supported possibilities for the people to be able to find what works for them.